So, the Tribeca Festival Lisboa has gone by, and as promised, Plan-Séquence is here to share some impressions of the event. Having been invited and kindly granted a press credential, the channel was able to get a glimpse in loco of the activities that occurred in the festival last week. The first attraction was the very area booked for the event, the Beato Innovation District, home of the so-called Unicorn Factory, which was established by the City Council of Lisbon in 2022. A former military manufacturing complex, it now stands as a dynamic startup hub. As an entrepreneurial dwelling, its use is primarily due to its surprising combination of derelict but sophisticated style, as if the abandoned building structures had been seized back by a people that not only acknowledge the beauty and allure of its age-decayed setting, but in fact feel thoroughly comfortable in it. Setting up camp in such a quaint and conceptually modern, if physically time-worn place certainly felt like an auspicious choice. In there, 3 stages of varying dimensions were assembled for conversations, plus 2 theaters to exhibit international and Portuguese productions, 1 podcast station, a media center for the press, and another open-air stage for musical performances. Not only the scale, but the environment of these areas differed considerably, offering a variety of moods ranging from grandiose to intimate, from unpolished to cozy, from expansive to enclosed, etc. Some of these structures had been erected or transformed specifically for the purpose of the event, others had already been revamped earlier for everyday use, whilst others remained almost as they have been for decades, in their welcoming, naked bareness. These were all accessible through streets which were wide enough for crowds to walk around uncluttered, leisurely or anarchically, without the risk of bottling, and were decorated with festival and sponsor props and some games and picture spots. Unfortunately, the pavilion of the Tribeca Talks had uneven and unstable flooring that often resulted in shaky broadcasts for screens on the side of the main stage. The exhibition rooms, named World Stories and made in Portugal, were tightly stocked with cheap chairs that shoved people together way too close, and featured a lowly placed tiny screen that prevented subtitles to be read, as most spectators' heads stood in between them and the canvas. In all fairness, in a festival with such reputation, one would expect a better installment or preparation for a movie theater. What's more, one is left with the feeling that a larger catalogue should have been brought together and would have much benefited the enterprise overall. At the end of the day, the 8 international productions, together with the 5 feature films and 7 short films or series on the Portuguese side, appear as a rather meagre and disappointing recipe for a film festival, considering the more than 24 talks and podcasts that comprise the whole festival and the incomparable larger selection of works at the festival in New York. Additionally, the decision to put one of the main draws of the festival, the 2024 Palme d'Or winner by Sean Baker, Anora, at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday, a workday for most people, is beyond bizarre. Despite that, the talks happening during the 18th and the 19th of October provide some interesting and stimulating perspectives from actors, producers, and people related to other arts. Although delayed and shortened, in Restoring Hope, How Tribeca Inspires the World Through Storytelling, the audience had the chance of listening to both organizers, Robert De Niro and Jane Rosenthal, and their takes on what makes good storytelling and how they can change the outlook of its spectator once confronted with stories that clash with their understanding of the world. Whoopi Goldberg and Ricardo Araújo Pereira got on like a house on fire, with the audience laughing all the way through their conversation, as they artfully investigated the source and purpose of comedy in its myriad shapes, but by contrast the second talk with the festival organizers on Saturday, moderated by journalists Bernardo Ferrão, was considerably awkward, as both De Niro and Rosenthal struggled with the persistent political bent and haphazard line of questioning, leading to a deserved complaint by De Niro himself and members of the crowd. Perhaps the next edition of the Tribeca Festival Lisbon, which by the way was confirmed on the final day of the event, will strive to pick moderators with a keener cinephile sensibility. In another talk, Patty Jenkins expressed the imposing altering of one's relationship with a film, depending on the medium used to watch it. In her conversation, she expounded on how watching a film in a movie theater or in one's living room at home delivers an experience that can affect how one perceives the work. However, she also touched on a relevant point, which is how the tax credit pushes away foreign productions from shooting in countries such as Portugal, as well as the fact that there exists some internal incentives but not enough money to finance projects. This is a matter that ought to be reviewed and discussed on a governmental level if there's a desire to attract more ambitious international productions to the country. Other subjects, such as the monolithic production of blockbusters or the streaming catalogues and their themes, were also discussed, but Portuguese artists had also valuable insight to offer. Joaquim de Almeida is one of the first Portuguese actors to successfully insert and adapt himself to Hollywood, whereas Alba Batista is one of the latest most fortunate Portuguese exports to the North American media industry, and whilst both had very different upbringings and experiences, their path reveals just how much one is dependent on both luck and hard work in the medium to attain their level of success. On a different subject, in The Actor as CEO of Their Own Career and the Opportunities for Career Growth, for example, several famous Portuguese actors shared how their perception of self-management and self-marketing has changed and how much they have learned during their development from the first acting roles to where they stand right now, offering some advice and suggestions for up-and-coming actors. Plenty of other talks conveyed informative thoughts and ideas that were likely useful for people seeking to better understand the challenges amidst the larger film industry, although most came from the perspective of either a director, producer or actor. Hopefully the next edition will be able to diversify its guest list and allow also for directors of photography, scriptwriters, composers, light technicians or digital artists, for example, to share their knowledge, but the organization certainly needs to consider adding more films and subtracting a few talks, at least if it's meant to be more of a film festival and less of a cinema web summit. While the official number of visitors of Tribeca Festival Lisboa is not yet known, during those 2 days the picture that emerged was that of a successfully marketed event with a considerable amount of visitors, in spite of the challenging parking in the vicinity and the pricey tickets, just like the food and beverages inside the precinct, at least from an ordinary Portuguese perspective. Even though there was popcorn being offered for some of the film sessions, and the fact that there was free entrance for anyone to attend the musical performances seemed like mere trifles after having paid €130 for 2 days, an excessive price for domestic standards. All things considered, the Tribeca Festival Lisbon still marked an important addition to the country's cinematographic promotion and brings some much needed overseas visibility to it, and one can only assume that the edition next year is bound to improve and correct the mishaps witnessed in 2024 and to offer a better organized experience for those looking forward to attending it. Plan-Séquence will keep an eye on it, and next month it will also be paying a visit to another festival, LEFest, the Lisbon Film Festival, so stay tuned for that and other content. I'll catch you guys later.